Let's see what we got here. So we're gonna start with I'm gonna talk about creepy, and so I typed in creepy commercials, and you'll see what we get. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglash for the WDMA. We're gonna be talking about direct mail today. What a surprise, but stay with me. Probably we'll have a few interesting comments and maybe you'll learn a little bit. So, but before we do that, just to start off the day, let's go over to the creepy commercials that I found. This is for a product you squirt in milk.
I want some crusher, a little crusher. Milk keeps me fit and tastes so great. I want some crusher, a glass of crusher. It's tough enough to make milk shake. Add milk, or will crusher.
That was it. Okay, so that's Milk Crusher. Never heard of that product before, and that is really a creepy commercial. And it looks like low budget, and sometimes low budget works, but I don't know that this was from 5 years ago. I don't know that that product ever survived. If you want to make a comment in the comments, feel free. So let's get over to the regular news. Okay, post metaverse, Meta poised to lay off thousands more. So they laid off about 11,000 in November, or 13% of its global workforce. Which, so they had, they had like 100,000 people working at Meta, almost, and so they lost 24 billion over the past 2 years. Just shows you what you can do with money. You can lose it investing in silly stuff, and a bunch of financial. But Zuckerberg confirmed the company's shift to focus on regenerative artificial intelligence. Okay, so they're jumping on the Chat GPT kind of bandwagon, and it's a massive pullback from its failed strategic focus on the metaverse. Okay, so if you didn't dive into that, which if you listened to me, you probably wouldn't have dived into it. But now it's going to explore AI iterations. And one of the things we know about AI is that it's tricky to make money with. Okay. So anyway, now you're up on the latest news. This was an interesting article by Todd Wasserman from Media Post. And he said, imagine you're driving around at lunchtime and Google Maps alerts you to a Taco Bell nearby. Okay. I use Waze. Partly because it was better internationally when I was traveling internationally one time in Costa Rica. But anyway, Taco Bell nearby. There's a promotion offering a free taco. Would you stop? I guess it might depend on what else I had to eat. But if you're like most consumers, you wouldn't stop. At least according to a survey by Marigold, some 67% of respondents said ads based on location data are creepy. I guess in ways you assume, you allow them to use your location data to get around, and nothing worse than when the GPS in your car doesn't know where you are. So, I think it's sort of okay with on your GPS. It only comes up when you're at a stoplight or stop sign or something, when you actually stop. And so oftentimes it isn't up on the screen very much, right? So I don't know. There are ads. When I get down to Chicago area there, and then there's a lot of ads. Where I live, there aren't any ads. There's a Taco Bell only, like 15 minutes from me. So, but anyway, the Washington Post reported on a study by Duke University, which said that 79% of respondents said that offering recommendations based on past purchases are cool. So if you were a Taco Bell regular customer, then you probably would, stop. I would think so. Although it's hard to make those two connections. I don't know that you can just upload your customers to Waze and have them get the alerts that are related to your products when they're near your store. I don't know that that's the case. And I don't know that I've ever taken any advantage of any Waze offers. I don't think so. Um, but most respondents also said that personalized offers after they've been on a brand's site for more than 2 minutes are cool. I've never seen that happen, but maybe I don't spend that much time. If you're wandering around and they pop up and take an extra 10% off, well, yeah, I guess you'd say that would be okay. Most consumers said they would trade personal and preference data in exchange for discounts and coupons. Something to keep in mind when you're trying to gather first-party data. Offer something. We manage some pharmacy marketing for small independent pharmacies, and we'd encourage them to build a mailing list, and you just offer them a candy at the cash register and say, if you put your email on here or whatever and your address, you can have a candy. People will do amazing things. Loyalty rewards, 91%. We've got the pig card at the Piggly Wiggly, and or exclusive access to products and services, 86%, or the opportunity to win a prize, 83%. Okay, so there's some. Craig Huey had an article about how 90% or 95% of mailers don't use an offer like that, something for free information, he said. But I find these rewards to be more compelling. I think I agree with the study. So most online shoppers will offer their email, gender, and name, maybe not a real email, in exchange for discounts. Overall, consumers want some familiarity with a brand before they're willing to offer personal details that might be of use to marketers. And that's the way that goes. Okay, and we're going to finish up with this article by Andy Cody, Designing Effective Direct Mail Campaigns and Best Practices excuse me, for Targeting, Delivering, and Measuring Success. And he's got a little tickle here, and I don't know quite why. I put a little extra pepper on my eggs. Excuse me. I'll get a Tums. It's hard to stop once you start. Okay, he's got a wonderful table of contents, which it's like a great checklist for direct mail. It really is. 15 points. I could have done without it. Once he got into the pros, I would have maybe liked him to just talk more about what he was talking about. So his first step is to define your market. Define your target audience. And, if you've been in it a while, that might be your first step. If you haven't, then one of the key mistakes that people make when they're deciding to try direct mail, because there are a lot of different ways to approach your mailing list, geographically, there's lots of supposed lists that offer you all kinds of insights. Who listens to talk radio? Who studies their Bible every day? I've tried all kinds of lists, and those are mostly called compiled lists, and mostly they don't work, even if they seem to be really right on. Like charitable contributions you're trying to raise money for a Christian organization, and you say, "Whoa, let's get those people that read their Bible regularly." Well, there's two problems with that. One problem is, they're only a small percentage of the file, because they gathered this from different sources, and only so many sources, not very many sources, will ask whether you read your Bible every day. And if you're like me, you think, well, most days, sometimes on Saturday I don't, and in church, they read it to me, so maybe that doesn't count. I'm not sure. So maybe you leave that one blank, or maybe you just feel like, I don't know why they should know that, and I don't think I'm going to tell them. But if it was, walk through the Bible in their list, maybe they would offer that as a definite piece of information about their mailing list if you were going to swap with them or something like that. Anyway, the point is that you don't really know what you're getting on a list. Even in your own customer file, there could be a lot of erroneous data When we worked with Cabela's, they had a little checkbox thing in their data set, whether they'd bought hunting or whether they'd bought fishing. And we found that 10%, at least 10% of those, when we actually matched those check boxes up with what the actual part numbers that they'd bought didn't match. So about 5% it said had bought fishing and hadn't, and about 5% said they hadn't bought fishing and they had. I don't know who was doing the check boxes. I'm assuming it was some kind of algorithm written by IT. And the big problem with that is that oftentimes those things may go out of date. What if you bought it 4 or 5 years ago and the part number is no longer in the table that says this is the fishing information, or is the inventory master file up to date? So even with first party data and with what you bought, which seems to be okay to use according to that previous article, you can still have trouble getting it right. And we see that all the time with all of our clients. Almost have significant problems in categorization of what people buy. Okay, and then that's just a start. I did some work with Oriental Trading years ago, and they had their inventory master organized by the material that an item was made out of. So they had ceramic, category for ceramic, a category for glass, category for metal, plastic, and it was because the buyers were organized that way. So their inventory master was organized that way. But you wouldn't want to organize your customers that way, right? It wouldn't make any sense at all. So even when you've been at it a while, your definition of your target audience might be a little elusive, let's just say, and you may not be able to pull the lists out that way, right? Part of what we do for clients is, so for Baseball Express, and I've told this before, I called them up one day and I said, do you do business to business? Do you ever think about business to business? They said, no, we're strictly consumer. I said, okay, well, who buys these $4,000 pitching machines? And they said, well, leagues and maybe colleges and even some major league teams, and I said, oh, okay. Did you ever consider those to be business to business? No, we're strictly consumer. Anyway, they'd never thought about themselves that way. And so we looked at what people who bought the pitching machines also bought, and it turned out that they bought rosin bags and line chalk, and which are very inexpensive. And so we found an inexpensive item that would identify someone who had a very serious baseball diamond. And we started targeting those with outbound telemarketing, actually. We went right to that and found out that they didn't know that we sold uniforms and we sold a lot of other items that they could be buying from us. They usually liked us. And so we grew a multi-million-dollar division within just a couple of years, pretty close to double the size of the company, just by identifying a new way of thinking, categorizing our items to identify them, but identifying a new target audience. And so, though this seems obvious, it can be very, very lucrative. We've done that over and over and over with companies, explaining that your definition may not fit either your resources, your categorization, or the way you target. So Windham Hill Records, they flew me out, to visit. I do visits. I have a sort of a canned visit your company, learn about it, and see if I can help you improve. And so they flew me out, and they said, we rent mailing lists, and we mail a little catalog. And they said, it doesn't do well, but we know that it drives traffic to stores, retail stores, though we can't really track it. But, anecdotally, people write back and say, they love the catalog and they went to the store. So I said, well, what kind of lists are you renting? And they said, well, we're renting, because of our profiling, which says that our buyers are men 35 to 55, high income and high education. Those are our main customers for our music, sort of new age music. And I said, oh, okay. He said, but those lists do terrible. I said, Did it ever occur to you that maybe you'd be better off targeting the people that like your music? Well, how would we do that? I said, well, how many of these little CDs do you get rid of in a year? And they said, well, about 4 million. I said, why don't you just put a little card in there that says we have a free catalog, give us your name and address and stuff. And they did. And we generated 600,000 names, which was, I think, more than they had been used to even printing. And from that, we got a 15% response, which was 90,000 new catalog buyers just from putting a little card in the CDs. So redefine their audience, not really, but changed the way we looked at it and made them, I think they sold to BMG for 50% of the remaining 50% of their shares for 17 million. So we made them a quick 17 million, made the owners, and that was nice. But anyway, point is, it's not so easy, okay? And then so what you want to do is, if you're starting out, you want to try a few things. Try a wide variety of scope so that you can get a picture of what the market tells you, so that the market can tell you who the audience is, because you may completely misunderstand the audience. And I could tell you story after story after story where that's true. So you don't really define your target audience. Your audience defines itself. And if you have broad enough testing in the beginning, you can identify that. I can give you another story, but I don't want to. I better go on. Okay, so then crafting your message. A lot of times people will say craft the offer first. Think about the offer. What are you selling? What's the price? Are you going to give away a free gift with it, or are you going to give away an extra 10% if they shop now? Is it going to be exclusive? Is it going to be a limited time offer? Is it going to be a product that isn't available in stores? There's so many ways to define your offer that usually the next step, they'll start thinking about their offer. And then after they think about the offer and how they're going to craft that, then they'll work backwards to the message. Designing your mail pieces, number 4, that can be way down the list. Because, and is it Andy? Andy says, consider using high quality images, bold headlines, and clear calls to action. I'm a big fan of clear call to action. Okay. Too often, USPS brought me into Oakley sunglasses, and they were going to try some mail. And they handed me the prototype mail piece, and I said, well, there's no call to action. There's no way to respond. There's no response device. Call to action is a little different than the response device, but you couldn't find it. It was buried in the body copy. They said, yeah, there is. It's right here. I said, no, that doesn't count. If you say visit our website as a call to action, which is down further in the article, make sure that the website is big enough. But even more important, put a QR code next to it so that, people can get to it easily. Anyway, now we have choosing the right mailing list. And I think Andy's right in differentiating the market from the mailing list, because sometimes, I did work with Mary and Merrill Dow reaching the Cartism patients. Well, you couldn't get a list of Cartism patients, HIPAA and all that. So, just because you know the target doesn't mean you can get a list of the target, right? Does that make sense? Right. So when you're thinking of the target up above, it belongs at the beginning, but it also has to have you have to keep an eye on, well, how can we reach that target? And there may not be a good way, or there may be a great way. It just depends. It takes a little bit of creativity, but the mailing list is directly related to the target. Timing. This is really important if it's like Christmas, seasonality, holidays, but sometimes off market. Well, I did work for Hirschner's, one of those come in and walk around back long ago. And we found that they're springtime buyers. A lot of people, they sell patterns for making gifts. So pre-Christmas is a big time for them. But the people that buy the patterns off season were their best customers. Those are the people that really enjoyed the needlepoint and that kind of thing and would do it year round. And so we found that there was a clear difference, a big difference between the springtime and the fall buyers. And that's often the case. And if you're thinking about the timing and the seasonality, sometimes you want to buy response lists. You want to buy lists of people that bought for, like if you're doing a Christmas offer, bought for last Christmas. But oftentimes mailers think, well, I want the most recent buyers. Well, the most recent buyers and the holiday buyers might be completely different. And so sometimes it's more effective to mail the older names that fit the season that you're trying to hit. Personalization, basically the rest of this, and he just has like a list of, he just restates, personalize your mailing list. Personalize your direct mail piece can help to increase response rates. Perhaps. Consider using variable data printing, because Andy's a printer, including the recipient's name and personalized offers and other personalized elements. And of course, you want a personalized name and address. So, but I talk to printers, and they say only about 10% of their customers of their print customers, their direct mail companies, use personalization much at all, very effectively, and most don't. It's not so easy because it requires you to have data that relates to the personalization. So anyway, I'll offer this up in the WDMA.org. We also have every show is a podcast up there on WDMA, but also it's available on Google Podcasts, on Apple, and on iTunes and Shopify. So if you like getting the news, the direct mail news, right up to date, you can put that on your podcast list and listen in your car on the way to work or on the way home probably, because it won't be up. Today's won't be up till later today or tomorrow. But they are posting them, and there are over 500, and you can search for interesting topics you might like and download them and have a great day. Bye-bye.